Glass is one of those things that people, in most cases, don't understand. They have no idea how it's made.
I always had the drive from when I first started glass blowing. I always knew I would have my own studio.
Glass blowing is such a hands-on thing. You can't just learn by watching somebody, or you've just got to do it. And you've got to spend hours and hours and hours doing it and making mistakes and burning yourself and going through all that. One of the reasons why we have our studio open to the public to show people what's involved with making the glass and also blowing it. Now it's just been dropped on top. The tricky part, I guess, is to keep that bowl hot enough. Again, it's all about the temperature. The bowl has to be hot enough to cope with the hot glass being poured onto it. If it was too hot, it would collapse, but if it was too cold, it would crack. Generally with glass, if you make a mistake, that's it.
I do still get excited, and I think that's why it's important to make new designs, because if you don't change your designs, then you can start losing that if you're making the same things again and again. So when you get something that's new and you think this is really great, then it's really exciting. Then you jump out in bed in the morning and think, right, I'm going to go and make these pieces today, and they're going to be great. We do get excited about blowing glass. It's good fun and challenging, and everything that you want out of a job. Always tell people it's a life, it's not a job. It's just the way we live. I started off in Norway. My parents are obviously Scottish, but they both moved to Norway as glass engravers. So I was born there. When I was 12, I moved to Scotland. And then I went to England to do this course in glass that my father heard of, which was an all-glass course.
I was born in Melbourne, 1959, and grew up in Beaumaris, southeastern suburbs. I didn't really know I had a big creative side. I didn't particularly do a lot of art at school or anything like that. I helped Eileen build her studio and get started. So during those years I was a dairy farmer as well as helping Eileen in the studio. I was still determined to be a farmer, and that's what I was. I was perfectly happy being a farmer. It is one of those things that you just need to do yourself. You can't learn it out of a book, or you can't learn it from just being told. You have to get a pipe in your hand and start playing with it. I decided to make outdoor pieces. I guess it's the continual step. Each piece you make is the next step, and you're trying something new each time. With the outdoor pieces, I guess I'm trying to show people that glass can be taken outside. I put a lot of thought into the design, particularly with the steel work. That takes quite a bit of time to get together. For example, the piece I've made called Determination, it probably took me a week or so to get the steel work done, and then I blew some glass into the hole of the steel. My pieces generally have a connection with landscape. I think a lot of them do, and I guess that's from my background. Often when you travel around the outback in Australia, you come across little settlements, and the only things that are left there, the only way that you know that there was settlement there, is that there's glass bottles and pieces of glass lying around in the ground.
The longer you work with glass, the more challenging it becomes, I think, because you push yourself that little bit harder, and you're always trying to manipulate it into the way you want it to go and not the way it wants to go. You're always pushing yourself to make bigger pieces. I've got to the stage in my life now where sometimes I think, oh, well, if you have a good assistant, as they say, you're only as good as your assistant. I tend to use our assistant a lot for the lifting. Colours in glass at the moment are, well, they're so exciting at the moment because all the bright colours are in. It's, I love the colours at the moment. It's the oranges, the reds, the yellows, the lime greens. I mean, lime and green and red are my favourite colours at the moment, so I tend to try and put them all together. I love adding them together, even red and purple, which a few years ago, if you thought about red and purple, you would think, oh no, you don't do that, but today they look great. So I chose to go down the path of glass blowing because I thought it was really a lot more exciting, a lot more instantaneous, and just personally at the time that I was at the time, it was just so good. My father's techniques of the cameo work is actually been classified as a dying art. People aren't learning it anymore because it just takes too long to learn and too long to do the pieces, so people can't see any income out of it. So the furnace is running 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. We never switch it off. Over there, there's a glory hole. It should be called a hell hole, but it's a glory hole. It's about 1200 degrees. I think people really appreciate then what goes into the piece, and also quite often people will buy the piece that they've stood and watched because it's like watching a birth. It's sort of, they've seen it being created and they love that. I like getting the response that you get from them at the end of the piece. For example, when you're making a platter and you're making it round the whole time, but you've told them it's going to be a platter and they just look at you and think, nah, it's not going to be a platter. And at the very end, you just heat it up and then you do the big spin. And then they're always got the big woo, it's like, it's great. So you think, oh yeah, it's exciting. I suppose it's like performing, isn't it, in some ways? And it is red. It will be red tomorrow.
So yeah, I've got a bit of a theory where everybody's artistic in their own way. It's just a matter of digging it out.